Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I want to share with you some personal insights and lessons that I've learned while living in the Japanese countryside. Moving here has been an incredible journey filled with challenges, cultural discoveries, and plenty of moments of awe. Whether you're thinking about a similar move or are just curious about rural life in Japan, I hope this video gives you some valuable information. So let's dive in. So the first lesson that I've learned while living in the Japanese countryside is to embrace community spirit. One of the things I noticed when I first moved here was how close knit the community is. Each small village in the area of where I live is very close with each other. They all know each other, right? And I found out that each village has a community leader, right? Like a committee. And what they do is they try to come together and they find ways to improve the community. They create community events like barbecues or karaoke night, or they are also have a lot of other responsibilities, such as to ensure that the area of the village is kept clean, to maintain the shrines and temples of that particular area, to handle finances, stuff like that. So there's a lot of responsibility, but it creates a great sense of community at the same time. And I also noticed that people in the countryside generally care about one another. Neighbors check up on each other frequently, especially on elders who tend to live alone. Neighbors also drop by with fresh vegetables like radish and cabbages from their gardens, and even give gifts to each other. I noticed that gift giving is very common here, in especially in the countryside. Because if you know your neighbor and you have a community, you want to maintain a good relationship with them. So the and also as part of Japanese culture as well to give each other gifts, and I find that to be a very good thing to do, and it does maintain the community and the relationship amongst everyone. I've also noticed that when community events happen, when local festivals happen, everybody in the area, like in some shape, way, or form, like contributes to the event. And it's not just about participating in these events, it's about contributing. And for example, I volunteered at a local community center nearby to help set up a karate tournament. Many people from the community also volunteered to be staff members, to hand out the medals, the trophies, and to be referees for the matches. Even children, I've noticed, as young as 5, helped with preparations for cleaning. I've also volunteered at a year-end cleanup at my local gym, where many people in the community also come together to clean. And it's not just members of the gym. It's not just gym members. It's also just people of the local community. They come together and they want to be a part of something. They want to have a sense of belonging, right? And it's really interesting that when I was part of that, I really did feel part of the community, and I still do. I still feel part of the community, and what I have realized after observing the communities here and how tight knit they are is that effort and willingness matters more than perfection. These moments have taught me the importance of community and how fulfilling it is to be part of something bigger than yourself. So, the second life lesson that I've learned while living in rural Japan is to slow down and live with intention. Life here is a lot slower compared to the cities like Tokyo or Osaka or Kobe. There's no constant rush to be somewhere or to do something. Initially, that was one of the hardest adjustments for me. Coming from a busier city life in Canada, I was used to constantly being on the go. But in the countryside, I've learned to really appreciate the art of doing things intentionally. Simple things like brewing a cup of coffee in my apartment, listening to the sounds of birds outside, or taking a walk along the rice paddies become meaningful when you're present. Living here has taught me to slow down and savor life's small pleasures. It's a mindset that's deeply rooted in Japanese culture, to find beauty in simplicity. Another life lesson I've learned here is that nature can also be a great teacher. So I've been living here for over 3 years now, and I have seen the different seasons. I've seen the cherry blossoms in April. I have seen the autumn leaves. I've seen the snow, right, in the winters, and I feel like when you're exposed to that, I felt a sense like I felt like my patience level increased a lot. I felt like I became more patient as an individual. Um, like an example is like the Japanese countryside is really connected to nature, obviously, right? And living here has made me more like attuned to the rhythms of like nature. Like in Japan, each season, spring, summer, fall, winter, is celebrated, right? And respected. There's some sort of event or festival that happens every single season, right? Um, and performing activities during those seasons, like for example, like in the springtime, planting rice, right? And like preparing for winter by stocking up on firewood, right? Um, I feel like those activities that Japanese people do and the festivals that they celebrate in each of those seasons is a result of the pace of life. So the pace of life is connected to nature, right? Nature takes its time. Nature, the change of seasons takes its time, right? And I feel like people who live in rural Japan or in the countryside in general, anywhere in the world, that dictates their pace of life. They follow up with the change of the seasons. And I feel like there's something really like humbling about that. Really humbling about that. So, yeah, essentially, I've learned that nature can teach us patience, right? You can't rush things in life, right? You can't rush like the ripening of a fruit, right? You gotta wait, right, until that banana turns from green to yellow so you can eat it, or that mango, right? And I feel like the sense of patience that I've learned in being attuned to nature in the rural countryside has even affected other areas of my life, like relationships, work, and even my own personal growth, right? So being exposed to nature for such a long period of time has really, really increased my patience level with everything in my life. And the next lesson that I've learned while living here is adapting to challenges. So obviously living in the countryside isn't always sunshine and rainbows, right? There are like unique challenges, like for me, for example, like dealing with stink bugs, right? Dealing with spiders and other creepy crawlies that enter your apartment, right? Figuring out how to stay warm in the winter without using central heating all the time because electricity is really expensive here, right? So you have to find other ways of staying warm, like using a kotatsu, right? Which is a typical Japanese table that's heated with blankets, or navigating the mountainous roads here that are narrow and very dangerous, especially when you drive up the mountains, because sometimes there's no guardrail on the side. So one tiny mistake and your car can just literally go down the mountain, go down the cliff, right? So even during wintertime, right, there's a lot of snow when you're driving, so you have to be really, really careful. And it's tough, but that's part of life, right? Other challenges that I faced here is like not so big in the Western world because everyone speaks your language, and you have people who can repair certain things for you with ease. But when you live in a country where not everyone speaks the same language as you, there are challenges. So I'll give you some examples. So for me, there a couple of times my air conditioning unit wasn't turning on, right? So I wasn't getting cool air, and it was really humid, really really hot. So I had to literally figure out what the problem was, because at the time my Japanese level wasn't that good, and I didn't want to like disturb other people to help me. I needed to figure this out on my own. Like this was my own challenge, and I needed to face this challenge. So I started watching YouTube videos on how to fix it, and eventually I was able to figure it out and fix the air conditioning unit and myself, which was great. But there are also other times when I felt hopeless. I felt helpless. And an example of that is my car battery died, right? Not so far away from my apartment, but it was a nuisance. Like I wanted to get home. It was really cold. It was like minus, well, not that cold compared to Canada, but like it was like -3, -4, and my car battery died. And luckily, I didn't have the jumper cables, right? So luckily, I went inside the gym nearby, and I asked somebody that I knew if they could help me jumpstart my car, and they literally stopped the class. And he went outside, took the jumper cables out of his own car, and then another person noticed that I was having difficulty, and then they volunteered to use their car to connect the wires so they can jumpstart my car. And I was like, wow, like people are so helpful, right? But those are just some of the challenges that I that you face, you know. But overall, I've learned that to do things myself and not to completely rely on so many people around you. But in Japan, people are really helpful. So you I've learned that the help of locals, it's like they are genuinely want to help you. They genuinely want to help you out of whatever situation you have. And especially in the countryside, people are, they know you, they've seen your face, like they know who you are, right? So you're not like a stranger to them in a sense. So since they've seen you before, they want to help you out, right? So overcoming these challenges for me has been incredibly rewarding. And it's also a reminder to myself that I am more capable that you are more capable than you think, especially when you step outside of your comfort zone. So another lesson that I've learned is the importance of language and cultural respect. So living in a rural area where not many people can speak English has actually pushed me to improve my Japanese. And it's not just about communication. It's about building trust with the locals and showing respect for the culture. So when you learn their language, even if it's like you learn like basic phrases like "Ohayo gozaimasu," "Konnichiwa," and you bow to somebody, right? That goes a long way. Like they they are like wow, this person actually made the effort to learn my language, right? And is showing me that level of respect, right? That is endured in my culture. So if you go to like for me, like for example, when I go to like certain stores, right? Especially small business owners, right? When I go to their stores, I strike a basic conversation with them in Japanese, and they're so happy. When I go to like a cafe or coffee shop, I'm talking to the couple that owns their restaurant, the family restaurant, and when you talk to them, they're so happy to have this basic conversation with you, even if your Japanese level is not that deep. But it goes a long way because it builds trust, right? And it can also open doors to genuine connections in the future. So that's why I think these small acts of respect are the foundation of like building great relationships here. Absolutely. So another lesson that I've learned is finding joy in minimalism. And living in Japan, in rural Japan, I realized like how little you truly need to be happy. The countryside lifestyle just like, I don't know, it just like looking at the mountains and looking at the rivers and the trees and there's just a sense of happiness that you get from it instead of like looking at like man-made things and people driving Ferraris and Lamborghinis in like the big cities and stuff. It's like I feel like it just connects back to your original self, like who you really are when you are exposed to like being in the countryside. Like you realize that less is more. Like the smaller possessions that you have, like the greater sense of like feeling of happiness that you get, right? Um, for me, like I'm constantly assessing the materialistic things I have here, like clothes and electronics. If I have an excessive amount of t-shirts or shorts or something, I would just donate them, right? Or throw them away or something like that, even with electronics. And I feel like I'm constantly in that mode. Like every like couple of weeks I'm assessing like what I currently possess. And then I create like a list of things that I don't really need anymore. I can just throw them away or give them away to someone who might need them. And when I do that, I generally feel like I've cleansed my soul, like myself, and as a result, I feel a lot happier because at the end of the day, I didn't really need all those things. So, and it's not even about depriving yourself. It's not depriving yourself. It's about appreciating what you have and living mindfully. Plus, less clutter just means more room for, to add better things or more meaningful experiences in general. So, another thing I've learned while living in the Japanese countryside is to be more grateful for like daily life. Um, Living in the countryside has made me appreciate the small joys of like everyday life, right? Like the taste of local grown produce. Like as I said before, like the sounds of like the birds or like the frogs at night. The kindness of a neighbor or a friend or a coworker that gives you like a little gift or like even like a little candy, right? And like it's you feel like a sense of gratitude and you feel like you want to return that. You feel like you want to return the gratitude and gratefulness that you get. And the gratitude aspect of like the Japanese society, how grateful they are for a lot of things, um, has really changed my outlook on life. Like it helped me to find like contentment in my life, like acceptance, even in the simplest moments. And I feel like that for me, that is like one of the greatest lessons of all is to be more grateful just for daily life in general. And that's what I learned from living here. So those are the life lessons that I've learned while living in the Japanese countryside. And for me, I feel like it's been a very life-changing experience so far. And for you, the viewers, I hope that these lessons like resonate with you in some way. And if you've ever thought about living like a slower or simpler way of life, or just stepping out of your comfort zone in general, there's so much beauty to be found when you actually take that leap, right? And yeah, thank you so much for watching.